I'm George and I play a guitar.
At the time I was born, my father's job was driving a bus, and I lived in a 2 up and 2 down 12 Arnold Grove. My mother was from an Irish family called French, and she had lots of brothers and sisters. My grandmother used to live in Albert Grove, which was next to Arnold Grove. As I became a teenager, I was about 12 or 13 when I first heard Fats Domino. I'm in Love Again. That was the first, I think, what I would call the first rock and roll record I ever heard. I used to be at the back of the class trying to draw guitars. Big cello cutaway guitars with F-holes, little solid ones with pointy cutaways and rounded cutaways. And I was totally into guitars. And I heard about this kid who had a guitar, and it was £3.10. It was just a little acoustic, round the hall type guitar. And I got the £3.10 off my mother. That was a lot of money in those days.
When I was still at school and I was really small, I know John was really embarrassed because I was so tiny. I only looked about 10 years old.
When I met John, he had 4 strings on this guitar. I mean, John didn't even know guitars had 6 strings. I was saying, "What are you doing? What's that?" And he was saying, "Well, you know what?" He thought that's what it was. So we showed John the guitar chords, E and A and all those. When I met John, he had a lot of power, really. Sometimes, they pick somebody to march behind on the way to war. Well, he was certainly out front.
When you thought you wanted to be a musician, where did you think you would have...
There's no justification for it. We kind of had a feeling that that's what we were going to do, and that, I always felt that something good was going to happen.
Don't bother me, this is a remake, we're calling it Take 10.
Since she's been gone, I want no one to talk to me.
I think as the first song again, it was written basically as an exercise to see if I could write a song, because I thought, well, if John and Paul can write, everybody must be able. I wrote that in the hotel in Bournemouth. We were redoing the summer season. I was sick in bed. Maybe that's why it turned out Don't Bother Me.
Yeah.
But it's not a particularly good song, but it at least showed me that, all I needed to do was keep on writing, and maybe someday I'd write something good. Our image is just us, as we were. We don't try and make an image. It just happened, and so we don't have to keep it up. We just remain ourselves. I do like the fans and enjoy reading the publicity about us, but from time to time you don't realise that it's actually about yourself. You see your pictures and read articles about, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Paul and John. But you don't actually think, oh, that's me that I am in the paper. By having the money, we found that money wasn't the answer, because we had lots of material things for people to spend their whole life to try and get. We managed to get them at quite an early age. And it was good, really, because we learned that wasn't it. We still lacked something. Better to be an outspoken atheist than a hypocrite. And after all my life, I've been brought up, well, they tried to bring me up as a Catholic. They had told you to just believe what they're telling you, and, not to have the direct experience. And this, for me, going to India and hearing somebody saying, no, you can't believe anything until you have direct perception of it. And I thought, wow, fantastic at last, find somebody who makes some sense. And so I wanted to go deeper and deeper into that. The first person who ever impressed me in my life was Ravi Shankar, and he was the only person who didn't try to impress me.
Why did he impress you?
Because it was by his being. He taught me so much without actually saying a word. It's by example. So at that point, I stopped taking it, actually, the dreaded Lysergic, that's where I really went for the meditation.
That's the word God. I mean, does it mean something different to you now than it did before being heard?
It means all sorts of things to me. It means, the first concept of a man in the sky. Well, I kicked that one a few years ago, but I've got back to that now because it's a man in the sky as well, if you like. It's just everything. The whole thing it's just everything. Every aspect of creation is part of God. I always felt really close to the public and where I grew up, and that's why I suppose I wrote some songs that were like, hey, you can all experience this, you know? It's available for everyone. Ravi really was him who helped me to get back into being a pop singer. So from then I went from Los Angeles, where I was with Ravi with my sitar, went to New York on my way home. That was the last time I really played sitar. I checked in the hotel in New York. Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton happened to be staying there. Then I thought, well, maybe I'm better off to get back into being a guitar player, songwriter, whatever I'm supposed to be. Because I'm never going to be a sitar player, because I've seen 1,000 sitar players in India who's twice as better than I'll ever be.
Something in the way she moves.
It was quite obvious that the Beatles gave us a vehicle to be able to do so much when we were younger, and we grew right through that. But it got to a point where it was stifling us. There was too much restriction. You know, it had to self-destruct. The funny position I was in was that in many ways, you know, this whole focus of attention was on the Beatles. So in that respect, I was part of it. But from being in them, an attitude came over, which was John and Paul.
And this was one of the main faults of John and Paul. They were so busy being John and Paul, they failed to realize who else was around at the time.
And I wasn't feeling bad about anybody wanting to leave. I wanted out myself. I could see a much, better time for myself by, being away from the band. I just thought, well, what's the point of this? I thought I'm quite capable of being relatively happy on my own, and I'm not able to be happy in this situation. I'm getting out of here. After being in a group all the time with a producer, suddenly to be a solo artist with no producer, and no group,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's quite a big jump. I thought a lot about whether to do My Street Lord or not, having written it. I thought, it's really committing myself to something, because then a lot of people are going to really hate me, because people fear the unknown, you see. It's some sort of instinct in people. The point was that I was sticking my neck out on the chopping block, but at the same time I thought, well, nobody's saying it here. It would be, I wish somebody else was doing it, so that, to represent, because everything should be represented in a way, and if everybody's just going bebop baby, okay. People always say I'm the Beatle who changed the most, but really that's what I see life is about. The point is, unless you're God conscious, then you have to change, because it's a waste of time. Everybody is so limited and so really useless when you think about the limitations on yourself. And the whole thing is to change, try and make everything better and better. And that's what the physical world is about, is change.
George, how much money do you have to get to this?
Well, it depends, really. Maybe through the concerts, we could estimate maybe about how it's falling.
Watch out now, take her, beware of falling sweet.
Recommended by Eric Clapton, Barbara Streisand, and many other top-notch singers and entertainers.
Contented middle age.
I suppose so.
Because I don't go discothequing and things like that where people hang out. with their cameras, so they presumed that I was Howard Hughes with my big fingernails and Kleenex tissues and that kind of stuff. Bottles of urine all around the house. But I wasn't like that at all. I go out all the time, or a lot of the time, see friends, have dinner, go to parties. So I'm even more normal than, normal people. It's a bit of a joke, the idea of a comeback, especially to me, Sometimes, I don't know, because I don't really see myself as a fully fledged showbiz star anyway, like that.
George, why do you play music? Why do you still play music? Just to enjoy?
Yeah. No, we got to do something, with our lives.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I know what to do. I get confused when I look around at the world and I see everybody's running around and yet nobody's trying to figure out what's the cause of death and what happens when you die. I mean, that to me is the only thing really that's of any importance. The rest is all secondary.
No, you want to just write it so that, we don't want to milk it into some huge big thing. No, but, I'd prefer you were to be honest. Oh, no, that's fine. I'm not going to die for you quite yet.
Would you want that?
Well, you never know. I think it makes a good story, doesn't it?
I had experience which speeds up the whole idea of, if you have something happen to you physically, then, people can go in hospital or have something wrong with them and, have a shock or something like that. And then you think, wow, yeah, I could be dying now. Now, if I was dying now, what would I think? What would I miss? If I had to leave my body, in an hour's time, what is it that I would miss? And I think, well, I got a son who needs a father, so I have to stick around for him as long as I can. But other than that, I can't think of much reason to be here.
Say farewell to the end of this reel.